bring her on. No, I'm not going to tell you what just happened. I'll leave that with your imagination. All right, so it's Friday, so it's our second episode of Fast Talk Fridays. I'm David Cinelli.
Ariana,
and we're realtors with Royal LePage Signature. All right, Ariana, today we're going to talk about buyer visits. So in case the people are aware, usually when you have an agreement of purchase and sale, so if you're buying something, you get at least a minimum one, and I've seen somebody ask for 7, but regular it's like 2 or 3 visits. And in that time, the buyer has an hour in which to visit the property to do things like, do a measurements and just do walkthroughs of the property. And they both have to be mutually agreed to on both the buyer and the seller in a date and time that works, right? Which sounds pretty standard. But some of the buyer visits we've been through have been a little less than standard lately, let's call it, right?
Yeah, to say the least, yeah.
So one of the stories we have too, so what you want to do in a buyer visit, if you are the seller, what's a good point for a seller to do about the house and the overall aesthetic of the house?
Well, the day before moving out, you should be mostly packed. I mean, we went to a buyer visit where it did not look like the house was going to be ready the next day.
And guess what? It wasn't.
Yeah, there was unpacked stuff everywhere. So
let's preface that. So when we have a buyer visit, say we have 2 visits, the first visit we usually do is like measurements. So you're looking to see if your furniture fits, you want to see about curtains, any kinds of things like just overall measurements. Sometimes if you want to bring a contractor, you do have to tell the seller you are bringing a contractor. You're supposed to do that and get the okay with that. You're not really just supposed to bring in a contractor and him looking at places. But anyway, the second visit is a little bit different. And what we're looking for in the second visits are, make sure that, we do the second visit about a day or 2 before closing. And one of the reasons is, yes, we want to make sure that the seller is going to be ready to close in a day or 2.
Yeah.
So when you walk in, you might not, we understand any of the buyer visits, we can understand if you have boxes you're packing. That we understand. Yeah. What you don't expect is
unpack stuff, and you want to make sure that there's no food on the ground and
dirty underwear all over the floor. Food left on plates on the table. Things just like a bomb went off. We totally understand if you're packing things up and things, but listen, somebody just paid good money for your property. Don't make them have second thoughts when they're walking in.
Yeah, they want to be excited to move in there in a couple days, right?
Try to get rid of any foul stenches, which will cause from all that stuff you've left behind. So just a tip for you. One of the other things you also want to do, because we're doing a day or 2 before closing, is what about the appliances?
So we want to make sure that all the appliances are working, whether it's the dishwasher, the oven, anything like that. Just make sure that it didn't break between those 2 visits that we've had.
Yeah, so the reason why we're doing that is again, it's going to be a lot harder in case there's an appliance that is not working to get money back from them after closing. So basically, if we find something which should have been working on closing, that's in the agreement of purchase and sale, that your dishwasher should be working, your stove should be working. You basically, when you move in, everything should be working. If after you've moved in and you break it breaks, let's say 24 hours, then it's on the buyer. Then it's too bad it was working on closing and it cracked. But if it's not working when you get the keys, you want to make sure that everything's up and running and working. So one of the things we do is we try to test. Yeah, the dishwasher might be a little harder to test because it might take longer than your hour visit. But other things you want to check as well, like make sure the AC can work, the AC up and down, those kinds of things. Yes.
Yeah, and make sure that anything that was included in the agreement, like curtains, that they're all still in place and that they weren't removed at the last minute.
Yeah, there was a situation where we almost didn't close on the property because the seller went and didn't think that the curtains and all the hardware and all this other stuff was included, and mirrors for the bathroom. So we basically said to them, listen, you put all that stuff back or else we're not going to close, or you have to compensate us a large amount. So that's why you're protecting yourself, and you should always do at least 1, if not 2 buyer visits, and make sure that buyer visit's about a day or 2, maybe 3 days before closing, but not too far in advance, because you might come up with some surprises. Anyway, for Ariana and myself, thank you again for listening along.
Yep, thanks guys.
And we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Bye for now.